Miss Mousey is one of those background Muppets that I feel a lot of people could recognize, but probably don't know all that much about. You might recognize her look, her name, or the fact that she's often been depicted as a secondary love interest for Kermit, but you may not know her full story. With Miss Mousey first appearing in the Muppet Valentine special and making her first return appearance in 4 decades in this week's Muppet Show Revival special, I thought the beginning of this February would be the perfect time to break down the history of Miss Mousey. So, let's get into it. Hello everybody, and welcome back to Muppet Deep Dive. I'm your host Ty, as always, and this is a series where we dive deep into the history of Muppet characters, both well-known and obscure. Today, I am very excited to be breaking down the history of Miss Mousey. A lot of Muppet characters, both well-known and obscure, take a while to evolve into the forms we're most familiar with. It may take several appearances for a character's design, personality, and even voice to be locked down. That wasn't the case with Miss Mousey. In fact, her creation is very simple and makes a whole lot of sense. Miss Mousey was created for the Muppets Valentine Show, the first ever Muppet Show pilot, which aired on January 30th, 1974. That's crazy, I just realized I'm recording this part of the video on January 30th, 52 years to the date after this special came out. While this show is quite different from the Muppet Show we ended up getting, it was also a variety show, with each segment themed to love or Valentine's Day in some capacity. One segment featured was a rendition of the classic folk song Froggy Went A-Courtin', starring Kermit. The song tells the comedic story of a frog trying to court a mouse named Miss Mousey, so this character was created to go alongside the sketch. Kermit was dressed in a white striped button-down suit with a little tie, very dapper, and Miss Mousey was also dressed accordingly in this big white and blue sort of house dress with an apron and a bonnet that lets you see her little mouse ears poking through. Both of these outfits do a really good job at matching the atmosphere of classic folk song and Valentine's Day special. As far as Muppet animals go, I'd argue that Miss Mousey is on a bit of the more realistic side. She has smaller, beadier eyes than we see with a lot of other animal characters, and her hands also have no fur on them. They're these little, thin, wiry hands that look like the hands of an actual mouse. Kermit's rendition of Froggy Went A-Courtin' begins pretty normal, matching the original lyrics of the song quite well. He goes to Miss Mousey's house and attempts to ask for her hand in marriage, but then things take a twist and everything gets way out of hand very fast, as Miss Mousey reveals that somebody else wants her hand in marriage as well. Kermit is unfazed. He assumes it'll just be a, as he puts it, little mousy admirer, and that's when Miss Mousey's boyfriend comes out. Oh my gosh, that guy's huge.
I'm not worried by what you say.
Why, Big Mouse, how are you today?
Oh-ho!
This character, whose official name is just Big Mouse, begins to threaten Kermit, telling him that he better hit the road, but Kermit's not going to stand for that. Our boy is ready to defend the honor of Miss Mousey.
Little does he know that I never missed an episode of Kung Fu.
Kermit tells Miss Mousey the bigger they are, the harder they fall. All throughout the song, they do this really fun gag. If you know the original song, you know at the end of every line they go, uh-huh, uh-huh, and here they always have Kermit say one uh-huh, and Miss Mousey say the other one. And they have a lot of fun with that here. They play with it in a lot of different ways. Kermit saying sort of these sillier lines to Miss Mousey, who agrees or maybe seems like she doesn't agree as much. Here, for example, he says the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Miss Mousey asks, uh-huh. Kermit confidently says, uh-huh. And then we see that Miss Mousey doesn't really seem to believe him. There are a lot of fun examples like that all throughout the song. And so Kermit goes off to fight Big Mouse.
Miss Mousey couldn't watch the fight. Miss Mousey couldn't watch the fight, which went all day and went all night.
Miss Mousey leaves her house in the morning to see both Kermit and Big Mouse on the ground. They ask her which one of us would you like? And she denies both of them, instead riding away on a motorcycle driven by Droop. Droop is a background Muppet character who played a significant role in this special. He's kind of famous for being this very sad, depressed character, and Miss Mousey goes away with him instead. That's right, she pulled a Dover Boys on him. Always a funny plot twist to play in a story like this. Miss Mousey appears once again at the end of the special during the show's final number, and the funniest part is that she's still with Droop throughout it. Miss Mousey's next appearance would be in the Muppet Show's second pilot, called Sex and Violence. Yes, that's its real name. She appeared as a background character here in a couple of segments, such as watching a wrestling match, and also in the At the Dance sketch, where she danced with Mana. Okay. When the Muppet Show was picked up to become a full series, Miss Mousey continued her role as a minor player in the Muppets ensemble. She only made 2 appearances in the show's first season. She had a background role in Season 1, Episode 2, the Connie Stevens episode, and appeared again in Season 1, Episode 22, the Ethel Merman episode, where she actually had a lead role in a sketch. In a rare musical number featuring Statler and Waldorf, we see the two of them with a teacup, and they're about to drink tea, but Miss Mousey pops up out of it and begins to sing the song Don't Sugar Me. Miss Mousey was, of course, digitally put into the teacup in an effect that honestly doesn't look too bad for 1976 TV. Here Miss Mousey gets to sing an entire song all to herself for the first and currently only time ever. She's puppeteered here by Jerry Nelson, who also played her in the Muppet Valentine special and would continue to be her go-to performer whenever she had speaking lines. That was honestly something that really surprised me while I was researching this video. So many background characters go through a variety of performers, but it's great to see that she had a consistent voice. This segment was actually a UK spot, a 2-minute segment that each episode of The Muppet Show had, specifically for the UK release, due to them having less time dedicated to commercials at the time, and The Muppet Show was filmed in the UK, so they had to do this. I bring this up just to show that Miss Mousey's role in Season 1 was so obscure that if you weren't in the UK, you would only see her once in the background of the Connie Stevens episode. But she would appear much more regularly as a background character in Season 2, appearing in 12 episodes of the season. In most of her Season 2 appearances, Miss Mousey is simply a part of the ensemble during musical numbers, such as when she appears alongside Gonzo and some Muppet dogs and several other animals during Julie Andrews' performance of The Lonely Goat Herd, or when she appears alongside several other Muppets next to George Burns at the piano. But Miss Mousey did actually have a significant appearance in Season 2, specifically Season 2, Episode 12, the Bernadette Peters episode, where she co-stars alongside Kermit in the opening number, singing a song called... Hold on, I'm going to try to do this in one take. How could you believe me when I said I love you when you know I've been a liar all my life? Great. At the start of the show, Kermit prepares to announce the musical number. But that's when Miss Piggy rushes in. You see, while Miss Mousey was off being a background character in Season 1 of The Muppet Show, Miss Piggy was beginning to be developed as a character constantly vying for Kermit's affection. Piggy tells Kermit that he should have told her he was doing a duet, that she didn't have time to prepare, but Kermit tells her it's okay because he's going to sing the song with Miss Mousey, and as you'd expect, Piggy is infuriated. The number goes down perfectly fine, not really any issues, but afterwards, we see Miss Piggy in Statler and Waldorf's box, pinning down Statler, forcing him to boo the act. A couple of times throughout Season 2, Miss Mousey's puppet was simply placed in the audience of the Muppet Theater. She was such a background character, they just made her part of the crowd sometimes. Miss Mousey would appear as sort of a love interest for Kermit 2 more times in The Muppet Show, being his dance partner in 2 At the Dance sketches, with her only speaking in 1. This At the Dance sketch, which aired in Season 3, Episode 6, was Miss Mousey's only appearance in Season 3 of the show, and it was actually her final appearance in The Muppet Show altogether, save for the intro. Yeah, she stopped appearing not even halfway into the show's run, but Easily, Miss Mousey's biggest contribution to the legacy of The Muppet Show is her role in the intro. In Season 2, The Muppet Show intro was fully redesigned and introduced all the arches and all the other famous iconography we all know, and Miss Mousey was included in the row of female characters that start the first lyrics of the song. She's all the way to the right. This ran in Seasons 2 and 3, but when the intro was shortened in Season 4, she wasn't present. She did make her return in Season 5, though, in the same arch as usual. Miss Mousey's next appearance would be a cameo at the end of the Muppet movie during, say it with me, the Rainbow Connection finale, where basically every Muppet that they'd ever built at that point showed up. You could find her here. Now, funnily enough, they did a camera test before they started filming the Muppet movie, just sort of testing how to shoot the puppets and all that, and they had Jim Henson and Frank Oz just sort of riff and screw around as the characters. And during this, Miss Piggy makes a rather violent revelation.
I'm sorry I hit you before.
Oh, well, that's okay. It didn't really hurt.
I'm not sorry I hit Miss Mousey.
What? You hit Miss Mousey?
Well, just an easy hit.
Is that why she broke her arm? You mean you broke her arm? Gee.
Well, she just was talking about Voo, and I just didn't know what to do. So I cut her in half.
Miss Mousey would make only one post-Muppet Show appearance, in the Muppets A Celebration of 30 Years special, released in January of 1986. Once again, just like the finale of the Muppet movie, this was just a huge ensemble production with a bunch of characters, so she was fit in there. This was Miss Mousey's final on-screen appearance. For whatever reason, they just stopped using her. I'm not sure why, but, she was a background character. It seems they just no longer were putting her in productions. Even when so many classic Muppet Show characters were brought back for the first time in years for the 2011 movie, Miss Mousey unfortunately didn't return. But like so many removed Muppet characters, she was referenced again by the Muppets in the 2014 Muppets Character Encyclopedia book, where she received an entire page all to herself. The book is written with a very comedic, sarcastic tone and gives us such important Miss Mousey information as her favorite board game is Mousetrap, and her least favorite object is Mousetrap. And she prefers to be called Ms. Mousey, and she never removes her bonnet. Some believe she's losing fur on top, and she only uses mascara tested on humans. Okay, that one's actually pretty funny. Like it does with several characters that stopped appearing, the book does give you a little joke explanation for what happened to Miss Mousey, claiming that she left the Muppets quite some time ago at the gentle suggestion of a certain pig, and she now teaches theater classes in a small college in Wisconsin. The book also mentions that Miss Piggy is still wary of Miss Mousey. A couple years after this book came out, Miss Mousey would appear in another book, The Muppets Meet the Classics, Tales from the Brothers Grimm. This is a big collection that retells classic Brothers Grimm stories with the Muppet characters, and, nearly any Muppet you could think of is in this book, because they don't need to physically show up. You could just type their name. I could type the name of Hugga Wugga, and he could be in there. Also in the late 2010s, the original Miss Mousey puppet would be donated to the Jim Henson exhibit at the Museum of the Moving Image, where I believe she's still on display to this day. In 2024 and 2025, a special initiative was launched highlighting a different Muppet every week on the Muppet social medias for 70 weeks to celebrate the franchise's 70th anniversary. And while Miss Mousey unfortunately didn't make it in, she was referenced after the event ended in a post where they revealed some of the Muppets that didn't make the cut, with little joke reasons as to why. Miss Mousey naturally didn't make it in, once again, at the suggestion of a certain pig. But while Miss Mousey didn't make it into the Muppet 70th anniversary event, like she kinda did, but she also didn't, she did make it into the 2026 Muppet Show Revival Special. Miss Mousey is one of several characters from the original Muppet Show that didn't return for the 2011 movie, but are returning for this special. She's only appeared in one shot of the trailers, appropriately as part of the intro. For this project, she was fully rebuilt for the first time ever. Her eyes are a lot more cartoony and a bit more in line with other Muppets, and, for the first time ever, she has a tail. She's still wearing her classic dress, apron, and bonnet, and while I certainly prefer her original eyes, I'm so happy to see this character return. This is an obscure character, yes, but it's a really fun one who I'm so happy they remembered to bring back here. Of course, as of right now, the special isn't out, so we don't know whether or not Miss Mousey will appear in any other parts of it other than the intro. I wouldn't be surprised if they snuck her in the background of a couple shots, so we'll all have to keep our eyes peeled. And hopefully, if the special does well and gets picked up as a full series, we could see Miss Mousey continue to be a background character. Maybe she could speak again. We'll just have to wait and see. Why bring back the character if you're not going to use her, right? And there you have it, guys. The complete history of Miss Mousey from 1974 to 2026. Miss Mousey is a background character that I really like, and I honestly also quite like her as sort of an obscure love interest for Kermit. But I get why she wasn't used all that much, especially not used all that much as a love interest. She doesn't really have much of a personality. Most of her appearances boil down to background Muppet or we need a background mouse for something. Regardless of her obscurity, I think it's pretty fun that they reference Miss Piggy seeing her as a threat on several occasions, even when Miss Mousey is no longer making appearances on screen. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching this episode of Muppet Deep Dive. Let me know what you think about this character down in the comments. Are you excited that she's back? Could you beat Big Mouth in a fight? I'll see you guys next time. Bye now.